What's up everyone, welcome to the video. We are here breaking down the Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead, Miami Speedway, one of my favorite tracks in the NASCAR Cup Series. Plus, at these intermediates this season, we have seen that the racing can be a bit chaotic, especially as we progress later on in the race. Last week was pretty smooth sailing for the most part, and then what do you know, stage 3 hits and things start to happen, and usually they go in the wrong direction for at least what I need for monetary purposes. But either way, the racing should be very good, and the great thing about Homestead is that we are going to have some tire fall off. Ross Chastain certainly backed that up in an interview, and if you look at the practice times, there was definitely some serious fall off, which is always going to be entertaining for me when watching a NASCAR race. In tracks that do have fall off like this, it always reminds me of the Larry Mack gif where he's just getting the cheese grater or whatever it was on the tire, as it puts a good visualization for you for how much the tires are actually going to wear down. But anyway, if this is your first time here, I'd be very shocked if it was. NASCAR season is just about over, but for those of you that might be new, what's up? My name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel. And if you do end up enjoying today's free content, the only thing I ask in return from you, if you can leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you can notify whenever I post new content. And feel free to leave a comment down below saying whatever you want to say because I have no control over you. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of the show, PrizePicks, because they do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you're new signing over on the site, you can use promo code CPEN to get an instant deposit match bonus up to $100. There's no strings attached. It's free money. You can use that to your advantage either at PrizePicks.com. You can use the link down below. But with that being said, I think that'll be it for the plug. So without further ado, let's dive right into this week's preview. And as previously mentioned, this is your Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead, Miami Speedway. There's your outline of the track, just an oval, nothing too crazy about it, although it's definitely my favorite intermediate. It's also got high tire wear, 1.5 miles in length, and your prototypical 267 laps, which equates to 186.9 diameter points. I was actually going to go to this race, but I was going to get tickets, and then I ended up forgetting, and then it happened to be next week, so I guess we're out of time, but hopefully next year, because this is one of my favorite tracks and not too far away from it whatsoever, just a couple hours away. But if you're looking for similar tracks to Homestead, you can obviously look at all the 1.5s, but I think the most comparable track is probably Darlington. It's another steep track. It's not quite 1.5 miles in track, but they both have a lot of tire wear, so I think they are pretty similar. So drivers that were fast at Darlington, I think will have some speed at Homestead. We kind of saw that a little bit in practice. And you can also look at Auto Club. I know Auto Club's bigger. It's at 2 miles in length, but it's also a high tire wear venue. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the other 1.5s as well. So we're pretty much looking at your typical 2-dominator race. Although the way these races have played out this year, the intermediate tracks, we see a lot of lap leaders. Like, it can interchange, and a lot of guys that are up front that are fast end up blowing tires or wrecking out. So I hate to really just call it like a 2-dom race or anything, but I'd want at least 2 guys that have the potential lead laps in my lineups, and there's not like any big name PD plays this week, so it should be pretty easy to go that route. I did just want to show you guys a little sneak preview here of the practice sheet. So a lot of guys ran a lot of laps in practice this week, which was nice because we have a ton of data to look at. And I do have it sorted my short run and long run and then the overall average. So you can see drivers that were faster in the shorter run that were, so maybe slower or faster in the longer run. So as you can see, once you look by long run this week, looks like according to practice, for some reason, that did not want to work. Let me redo the filter there. It looks like the 2 cars to beat is going to be Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain. These are the guys that were best at conserving their tires over the course of a long run, which is going to be very important at a track like this, especially if we go green. Although it seems like a lot of times we don't go green at these track types because everyone likes to wreck at the end. But just something you can look at here if you do have access to the sheet, because we have a good amount of data to work with this weekend. But anyway, going over to the driver-by-driver breakdown portion, if you're wondering my overall thoughts on the pricing this weekend, I think DraftKings did a very good job. Tyler Reddick's the most expensive driver. I thought it should be either him or Kyle Larson, so they did a good job with that. Nobody in the 11K range, which I think is perfectly fair for a 1.5 mile track with only 400 laps. That would definitely be underpricing, guys, with only 400 miles and 267 laps. Some of these drivers I think are a bit underpriced. We'll talk about that, but I think some drivers might be a little expensive. We'll talk through that here. But before we do, if you do want access to the sheet that I am previewing for free over on YouTube, there's a lot more to it. Projections, ownership projections, simulation scores, cheat sheets, data sheets, optimizers, ownership projections, all that fun stuff, and an awesome Discord community. Link can be found down below in the description for that. And I know that it's close to the end of the month, but the way Patreon works now, they changed the billing cycle, so it doesn't charge you on the first. It's just a 30-day reoccurring cycle. And I also cover other sports besides NASCAR, NBA, which just started, do that every single day. Then the NFL each and every single week, and Showdown slates. If you want to come in, access to the premium content, all at a fair price, Link is down below in the description for that. But anyway, let's start up top here with Tyler Reddick. And I should mention the odds are not updated after practice and qualifying. And I'm not just being lazy. DraftKings is being lazy. They're the ones that haven't posted the updated odds yet. Although I don't think it's going to change too much. But I do think a few guys will go up or down. Obviously, I'll try to mention that if I remember when I hit on them. But speaking of Tyler Reddick, he is the odds-on favorite to win this race. He's the most expensive driver on both sites. And he kind of starts in a sweet spot here of 7th where he's on the pole. So it's not as scary as it could be. But he's also not a big place differential play, so the ownership shouldn't be too insane. But he's got a nice sweet spot here of 7th where there's a little bit of cushion there, a little bit of leeway to make some mistakes. But he's definitely going to have to dominate, at least at some point, to get some fast laps or some laps led. He's going to have to finish strong to pay off this price point as the most expensive driver on both sites, but I definitely think the upside is there for it. I mean, we could look at some of the numbers this season, but since we had so much data in practice, I think this is probably our best point to look at. But he's great at Homestead. I mean, he's averaging the most DraftKings points per race here. The sample size isn't as big as some of these other drivers, but he is pretty darn good here. Always a fast lap guy. Hasn't really been a big lap leader here yet, but he is always picking up fast laps, and this is a great track type for him just due to the fact that he can ride around the wall, which is something he excels at. Another track that you can do that is Darlington, and he's finished 3rd and 2nd there this season. If you're looking at practice, he had the best car in the long run. Was fine in the short run, but it wasn't elite. But first in the 15, 20, 25, and 30 lap run, just beating out Kyle Larson. So it looks like he's got the car to beat. And if this race goes green, I think we see Reddick around the wall and working his way towards the front, leading some laps. Kyle Larson, $10,800. He is starting in 5th. I like him a lot. I think both him and Tyler Reddick are just about the same exact play. If I had to pick between the two, I feel like I would take Reddick just because his car was a little bit faster in the long run and he gets you 2 extra PD spots. But if I could jam them both in, I have not yet uploaded my projections to the optimizers. Haven't been able to crunch yet, but I will have those posted on Patreon just about right after I record this video. But I'm pretty sure they're both going to be top 3 in projections. I mean, Ross Chastain's obviously going to be very high where he's starting in 20th. But Larson's a great play. He's also great at riding on the wall, which is exactly what we want at a track like this. He's averaging the 2nd most DraftKings points per race here at Homestead. He has the most dominant points, 3 top 5s, the best drive rating. Finished 1st at Auto Club earlier this season. Another high tire wear intermediate track. It's pretty big. It's 2 miles in length, but it's under the same category. But 36 at Darlington, had a very fast car though. Then 12th at Darlington too, just wasn't that great in that race. But I expect big things from Kyle Larson here, and I would be very surprised if he doesn't get up front at some point. Denny Hamlin, $10,600. He's starting in 14th. I don't think he's necessarily a bad play, but I just don't think he's going to be as fast as Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick, and I can't jam all 3 of them in. So I have a hard time seeing him dominate over the likes of those 2 guys, but this has been a very good track for him, so I can't cross Hamlin off in tournaments. It's just for cash games, I feel like I would try to get to Reddick and Larson over Denny Hamlin, but has a win here. He's always in the top 15. He's a good lap leader. He's good at Darlington, which is a very similar track to Homestead. Fine play. It's just a matter of me having more of the 2 we already talked about. But if you're building 150 lineups, he's not someone I'm crossing off. Same can be said for Chase Elliott. It looks like he's got a better short run car though. He's starting in 3rd, so he's definitely in a good spot to dominate early on. 2nd in the 1 lap, 4th in the 5th, and 6th in the 10th. But it definitely falls off a lot. 10th, 11th, 15th, and 14th once you progress further in the longer consecutive runs in practice. So that's my only concern there. But if he can get up front, we get some cautions, a bunch of restarts, it looks like he's going to have a fast car for that, so that would work in his favor. But starting in 3rd does put him in a pretty tough spot, so I don't think I'm going to have a ton of Chase Elliott exposure. Ryan Blaney at $10,200. He's starting in 13th. And he's just another driver who I think can run fine. Like, he's still in the running for the championship round, but I just don't think he's going to have dominator type upside. And at this price point, he's not offering me enough place differential upside to really make up for the lack of dominator points. Like 8th in the 5 lap, then 13th, 14th, 13th, 16th, 11th. I can see him be around a top 10 car, but that's not going to cut it at that price point. So I'm not going to be huge on Ryan Blaney. Also, his numbers at Homestead aren't incredibly impressive, although I know he did dominate one of the races, but not too impressed with Blaney this weekend. Kyle Busch at $10,000. He's starting at 11th. Really cheap on FanDuel. I think he's a better play over there, but on DK, it's just one of those situations where I don't think he's going to be fast enough to dominate. And it seems like he has 13 issues each and every single week, so I'm just having a hard time trusting Kyle Busch. But Homestead's been a good track for him. I mean, he's got to win 6 top 10s the past 6 races here, a good chunk of dominator points, 2nd best average running position, or 3rd best running position, I should say, only behind Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson. I'm not going to deny the track history. It's just 30th at Darlington, 33rd at Darlington, and then 14th at Auto Club earlier in the season. Better play on FanDuel. It's just on DraftKings. I don't really see him getting up front, even though he has been fast at the intermediates this year. Dropping down to the 9K range, we have Joey Logano, $9,800. He's starting in 17th. I think he's going to be a top 10 contender. He's obviously looking very good for the Final Four here, and he's been doing very well recently in the past few months. It's just wasn't super impressive in practice. I got a little bit better in the long run. 26th in the one lap, but then 13th in the 15, 12th in the 20, 10th in the 25. For where he's starting at his price point, he offers you enough place differential upside to where you're going to be interested. But I'm not going to be super high on Joey Logano, I think, just because I like Ross Chastain a lot here at $9,600. He's starting in 20th. Very fast car in practice. Has a good short run car and looks like he's got a good long run car as well. And he's been pretty good at the other tracks that we've had this year, speed wise. I know the finishes have not been there. He finished 20th at the second Darlington race and 30th at the first Darlington race, but he was very fast in that first Darlington race. Just happened to get wrecked at some point. But I like Ross a lot. He's going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate. And really, if I had to tell you my three favorites, I know they're expensive, but just projection wise, I assume it's going to be Reddick, Larson, Chastain, potentially in that order. Although with Ross being starting all the way back in 20th, I feel like he's got somewhat similar dominator upside, and he's starting much farther back. So Ross actually might project as my best driver this weekend. He looked really good last week, and I think that can certainly carry over. So loving Ross Chastain in all formats. Martin Truex Jr., $9,400. Similar to Kyle Busch, I think he's a better play over on FanDuel. Not saying he's a bad play on DK. It's just I think he lacks dominator upside, but you don't necessarily really need that over on FanDuel. He's starting in 12th, and pretty much everything I said for Kyle Busch can be applied here to Truex, although it seems like he's got a bit of a faster car. He was 5th in the 30 lap, 7th in the 25, 8th in the 20, 12 in the 15. I don't think Truex is a bad play. He's been good at Homestead in the past, although keep in mind this used to be the championship race, so those guys always run in the top four pretty much the majority of the race, so those numbers can be skewed a little bit, but I think Truex is fine. If I had to pick between him or Kyle Busch, I would side with Truex. William Byron, $9,200. He's starting on the pole. Had a pretty fast car in practice, and he dominated Homestead. I think that was in 2020 where he picked up the win. I think he started in the teens and absolutely crushed at that race, if I remember correctly. But he's in a good spot to dominate here. Obviously starting on the pole now, he's going to have a tough task with Christopher Bell starting on the outside of him, and then you have Chase Elliott right behind him, and some other really good cars with Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson. So it's really going to be a matter of how long can he keep the lead, because he's not going to lead the entire race, because obviously at some point you're going to see a guy like Tyler Reddick or Kyle Larson get there at some point. But if he can lead you 30, 40 laps and be a top 5 contender for the majority of the race and just picking off fast laps here and there, he is definitely in play at that price point of only $9,200. A little bit tougher to get to on FanDuel at $12K, but on DK at $9,200, it's not a bad fit at all. So if you're playing cash games, I don't mind that if you just want to lock up the early dominator points. But in tournaments, I might shy away just in case he loses the lead early enough and happens to have some issues where he finishes 10th to 12th or something like that, where it can just kind of neutralize the dominator points that he already had inside with some of these other guys that are starting close to the front that I also think have dominator potential. Like Christopher Bell, $9,000. He is starting in second. If you're just trying to get away from the William Byron chalk, at least I assume. I have not yet ran ownership projections, but I would assume Byron will have some ownership starting in the pole. But Christopher Bell starting second, and while he had a good one-lap run where he was 4th, 14th in the 5-lap, and then 29th in the 10, and 28th in the 15, it really fell off in the long run, which is my only concern. But Bell's kind of hurting in the playoff standings right now after last week's issue with Bubba Wallace and who else got caught? Oh yeah, Kyle Larson. Obviously, Bubba got suspended for that. Christopher Bell just kind of got caught up in the mess. But he definitely has race-winning upside. We see that every single week. Christopher Bell used to be a guy that I only played at short tracks, but he's definitely expanded that this year where he's good just about everywhere. So I definitely want some Bell exposure. If I'm playing a single entry, I don't think I could get there. But if I'm building 3 to 20 lineups to 150, that's when I'm going to start filtering in guys like Christopher Bell, just to get away from William Byron, who should have some pretty high ownership. Kevin Harvick, $8,800. He's going to be in play just because of the price point. Always seems like he's a bit cheap. He doesn't usually have elite speed most weeks, but he's pretty good at avoiding carnage. And at these track types this year, we've seen where carnage has definitely happened quite often. Not offering us a ton of place differential upside, but he's starting in 16th. Practice wasn't super great for him, but I'm never really one to overreact too much to practice when it comes to Kevin Harvick. And he's got great track history here at Homestead. 5 top 5s the past 6 races. Although, like I said, this used to be the championship race, so these numbers are skewed a little bit. But he's really good at Darlington, which is a pretty similar track to Homestead. So I think there's definitely upside for Harvick below 9K if you're looking for just a finishing position potential driver. Not expecting tons of PD, but for someone that could contend in the top 12, top 10 at a fair price point, Harvick definitely fits that build. Chase Briscoe, $8,500. He's starting in 19th. He's a driver I never really like to roster too much, but practice was pretty good for him. Top 10 in the 15 and 20, 12th in the 25, 8th in the 30. Still in the playoff picture, obviously. Starting nearly 20th place in mid-pack at a fair price point. He's definitely going to be in play for me. I'm not going to call him a cash game consideration, but he's definitely in play for tournaments, whether it be single entries or 3 maxes. Daniel Suarez starting in 23rd, $8,300. A very similar play to Chase Briscoe, although Briscoe was a bit faster in practice, so I feel like I might side that direction. But Suarez is definitely in play, just not someone I'm going to rush to play. Noah Gragson, $8,100, filling in for Alex Bowman once again. Pretty good short run car, and even then the long run wasn't too bad, where he was 15th in the 20, 14th in the 25, but he was 7th across the board from 5 to the 15 lap runs in practice. So I think Gregson's certainly in play. And I don't think the ownership is going to be anything too crazy because he's right by guys like Kevin Harvick, Briscoe, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, which have a lot more name value. So I think Gregson could be a pretty interesting tournament play here. Eric Jones, $7,900. He's starting in 22nd. Pretty slow in practice, which I was kind of surprised. I thought Jones would show some speed this week, at least in practice. I mean, he could obviously be faster during the race because he was really good at Auto Club, and then he won the second Darlington race, and those are probably the best similar tracks that we have to look at this year. So I'm going to try to ignore the practice speeds a little bit because I think Jones will be faster once the race starts. But those slow practice speeds should probably lower his ownership, and it's not like he's a mega place differential play starting mid-pack. So I do think he's a pretty interesting tournament target there. Austin Cindric, he's starting in 26. He was insanely slow in practice. 14th in the 1 lap, 21st in the 5, and then 33rd in the 10, and 31st in the 15. I know the place differentials there, but I would probably rather go with a guy like Eric Jones personally if I had to pick between the two. And honestly, I think AJ Allmendinger is probably a decent pivot if Cindric's going to get any ownership for where he's starting. I know he's starting 10th, 16 spots further up, but he was insanely fast in practice, and I feel like those odds are definitely going to go down for him. We'll probably see him and Cindric potentially swap or something like that, but Dinger was fast, and he was fast last week as well. Fast in practice, fast during the race, so I could see that translating once again. But as you can see, top 10, top 8, pretty much across the entire board here. Good short run car, decent in the long run as well. So I'm fine with some AJ Allmendinger in tournaments, but could not get there in cash games. Michael McDowell starting in 18th, pretty slow in practice. I would rather get the AJ Allmendinger personally. And even though Austin Dillon was pretty slow, starting in 32nd, about double the spots further back, I'd still rather go that route. And he's very cheap on FanDuel, only $5,300. Brad Keselowski, $7,000. He's starting in 9th. Looks like RFK has some speed this week. Didn't really flash it a ton in practice, but did qualify well. And Brad Keselowski, 11th the 1 lap in practice, 18th in the 5 lap, and then it starts to fall off a little bit. But then he ends up rebounding to 29th in the 25 lap, which I know we don't usually have a ton of drivers that run 25 lap runs in practice, but we actually have a decent sample size this week where I believe 24 made a run. So Keselowski starting in 9th though, that's the only problem because there's a lot of risk there. I'm not going to have too much, but we have seen where if the RFK cars hit their setup, they actually have dominator potential. So he's more of a 20 max, 150 max kind of play. Could not get there in 1 to 3 max builds. And the same can be said for Chris Buescher. He was even slower than Brad Keselowski. He starts a spot further up, so I'd have a really tough time getting to Buescher. Eric Almirola, $6,700. He's starting at 28th. Similar practice speeds to guys like Keselowski and Buescher, but he's starting like 20 spots further back. So if I had to pick between those three, I think Almirola is definitely the safer route to go to. I had no problem playing him. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $6,500. He's starting in 27th. He was a lot faster in practice than these other guys we talked about. 10th in the 1 lap, 9th in the 5, 11th in the 10. Then 32nd in the 15, I'm going to assume there was just some sort of issue or something happened because I don't think he's going to fall off that hard. But 27th, I think this is fine for Ricky Stenhouse. He's better at the steeper tracks, which Homestead definitely is. So I think he should flash some speed, and I think he's got some top 20 upside at a pretty fair price point. And then we have two really fast drivers here that are really cheap, but starting close to the front, so it should lower their ownership, but they look fast, at least what we saw in Saturday's session. So Justin Haley, $6,300. He's starting in 15th. He might actually be a better FanDuel play, but I'll have interest on both sites here. But 9th in the 1 lap in practice, but then 1st in the 5 lap, 3rd in the 10, and then pretty much top 10 in the 15, 20, and 25 lap runs. I think he's a good tournament target for cheap because I think a lot of people go say the Ty Dillon route or the Stenhouse and Almirola. But if you're looking for a pivot for legit top 12 upside, Justin Haley is certainly in play here. Then John Hunter Nemechek, he is filling in for the suspended Bubba Wallace in the 45 car this week. He's $6,100, only $1,500 on FanDuel. I wish he didn't qualify so high, but I still feel like I'm going to get a few shares in tournaments just because he was extremely fast across the board. And it's not like he's in a bad car or anything. We've seen Bubba Wallace win races in this car. So I think John Hunter Nemechek's a very talented driver. First in the 1 lap, third in the 5, fifth, third, fifth, sixth. So fast in the short run, fast in the long run. If he happened to get up front at some point, he's going to kill his price tag. My only concern is if he rides around 10th to 12th place, which isn't going to kill you, but I think that equates to 25, 28 points, again, which is not bad. It's not terrible, his price point. It's not like we're paying $8,000 for the guy. So he's a tournament play for me. Can't get there in cash games, though. Ty Gibbs is starting too high. I would just rather play John Hunter Nemechek. Showed a lot more speed in practice. Ty Dillon, if you're just looking for a boring, safe, cash, cheap play, he's viable. Slow in practice, probably going to be slow during the race, but he always finds a way to finish around the top 25, top 20. Cole Custer, kind of in the same boat there. It's just I hate playing Cole Custer. But he's got more ceiling, at least in my opinion, than Ty Dillon because he actually has legit top 15 upside some weeks. Ty Dillon, you're just kind of hoping to avoid some wrecks. Harrison Burton starting too high for me, starting in 21st. He's $5,300. He was 17th in the 1 lap. That's fine. But then 24th, 32nd, 33rd. More than likely going to fade back. Todd Gilliland, pretty much the same exact play as guys like Ty Dillon, Cole Custer, although I would prefer Ty Dillon, Cole Custer over those guys. He's just a little bit cheaper. Corey LaJoie, he might be the punt play this week, even more so than guys like Ty Dillon and Cole Custer. He was 5th in the 1 lap, which is really surprising. But even then, in the long run, it wasn't terrible. He showed top 20 speeds. So only $5,000 starting in 31st. Corey LaJoie doesn't look that bad. And if you're looking at his finishes at Darlington Auto Club this year, 24th at Darlington 2, wrecked out at the first Darlington race, then 20th at Auto Club. I know it's not impressive, but I really do think he's got top 25 upside here, which is not bad to fit in the studs. And then Castle, Ware, McLeod, Yaley, you only play them if you think there's going to be mass carnage. If not, well, I don't think you should go that route. But with that being said, that'll be it for this week's video. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. And leave a comment down below if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi. You can certainly feel free to do just that. But I wish you all the best of luck. Looking forward to this race at Miami, and I need to go shave this off.